Well, it's been some time since I've had an opportunity to sit down with our next guest. Ray Makowecki is a retired biologist, but I don't know about the term retired. I don't think, Ray, you've ever hung them up. You're doing an awful lot of work on behalf of the Alberta Fish and Game Association with a group of other retired biologists. Just give us a quick overview of the work that you're doing and who you folks are.
Okay, nice to again talk with you, Michael. The groups that we're dealing with here include the volunteer biologist group, which include uh, um, um, about a dozen biologists who've been around the organization of fish and wildlife in the province, and a couple who are outside the province who were here previously.
My understanding, Ray, is not too long ago you had an opportunity to sit down with Jason Nixon, the Minister of Environment and Parks, to talk about fishing and fishing regulations. What were your concerns going in, and what are you hoping gets done into the 22-23 fishing season?
Yes, we've fortunately, as a group of two groups, the Next Step team, which is a number of municipalities and various anglers and various organizations. That's the Next Step team, and the Volunteer Biologist group is another group of biologists that were interested in the particular concern for fish management. We came to the minister with a couple of strong concerns, particularly that there was a need to harvest more walleye. And what we were seeing were very, very abundant walleye that were creating reduced or declining pike and perch and whitefish numbers. So there was what we call an ecological imbalance. And so we were suggesting to the minister that we make some changes in the regulations so that they would move to a greater harvest of fish, but in a what we call a low risk, sustainable fish harvest set of regulations.
So are you looking at specific lakes that you think could handle this type of pressure?
Yes, we showed the minister several examples of lakes that had tremendous large numbers of walleye over the last 20 years, and where there were virtually no pike and very low perch numbers and declining whitefish numbers. The biologists had confirmed that forage fish looked like they were declining as well. So it was exactly what the anglers were seeing. So we were seeking the minister to simplify the regulations in a safe way, a sustainable way, by allowing at least one walleye and one pike to be caught in every lake in Alberta.
And did they need to fall within a certain size?
Yes, the minister was good to hear that he was supporting that slot size use of a slot size tool, and we certainly patted him on the back for encouraging that in the previous year. So it seems like that option could be a useful one to consider. There, as we said to the minister, there are special lakes that you may have to require certain special regulations too, but the majority could be established in that way. And we use a lot of examples, whether it was Wadham Lake, Pigeon Lake, Lac Bellevue. There are many lakes that we discussed.
Given and I guess it's a good thing, the number of angling licenses sold over the last number of years, Ray. I mean, I think it's well over 300,000 now. If we went to a scenario where every lake an angler could keep a walleye and a pike, what's your fear? Could we run out of fish?
Well, no, I don't think we have a risk if you do it in a certain way. And there are, of course, you can go to some shortened seasons if needed, but you have to be sustainable. So we at one point suggested you could have a 2 week season in the say in the summer and a 2 week season in the winter time, and on very very small lakes, and have very small limits like a one fish limit with a slot size. So it could be sustainable, and we were seeing places where that could happen quite easily.
What do you feel the minister's thinking is on this potential revamping of regs?
Well, we were very pleased with the support we have from him and many of the MLAs that are part of our committees. Uh, they see some real benefit economically as well in small communities to have lakes that are open continuously in all areas rather than targeting a lake that's only open for, say, lac la biche only for a certain species. And so there is a general support, and his philosophy is very similar to the anglers we're glad to see. The answer might be an independent science review. And so one of the strong recommendations we made was that an independent science review should be carried out, as was discussed previously by a previous deputy minister a few years ago. And that independent science review would look at the various things like fish sustainability index. It would look at densities and see the impacts of walleye on pike, and do a careful assessment to see if there is another management direction needed.
There have been, as you're well aware, a number of public consultations. Of course, over the last, I guess, couple of years, they've been done the way we're doing this interview, digitally, remotely. But the concept of a public consultation, something you support, and do you feel that messages being delivered by folks such as yourselves and others are being responded to in a positive way by fish managers?
Well, that was maybe our number one item of concern with the minister initially, the need for meaningful uh, consultation with public is a real concern, and meaningful in terms of setting management objectives for lakes and finding out what the anglers really want. And that seems to have been lacking. There was a fairly negative response to the previous ones. That there was a concern that the government just wasn't listening. Uh, I myself have seen a positive change in that regard in the last few months and more communication. But I know a lot of the anglers, as well as biologists, are extremely concerned that they don't get the response. It's not necessarily the minister we're talking about here or the MLAs, because we do have positive comments there. It seems like there is a fixed movement towards just more of a scientific research approach rather than what we call management approach.
All right. Well, obviously, a lot more to come on this topic as we move along and move closer to next angling season. Ray, I know we'll probably have an opportunity to touch base again and get some more feedback from you. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Michael.